Malami sent people to me and our lawyer to come and be bailing him out of Kuje. He suddenly found out that we are the most credible people can do it. I'm sure El-Rufai must have been looking for a way now to reach out, because all this shouting about bleeding of nose is to get sympathy. I'm not saying that his nose is not bleeding, and I call on the government to stop his nose bleed. It must give him good doctors, or take him to Kaduna to go to the hospital he built to stop the bleeding. If you are in power in this country, like the governor, head of state or president, vice president, senators, you should take care of the prisons in case you find yourselves there. I don't know what his legal strategies are, but all we know is that he's being held by his friends in the APC. And this is the strategy they used to use on others. I'm surprised that his nose is bleeding at the ICPC. When did his nose start bleeding? When he was governor, was his nose bleeding? But I'm not making fun of him, because I don't support any form of impunity against anybody. But even while we are condemning impunity, we must also not let history evade us by reminding ourselves that these guys created the monsters that is now consuming them. The Frankenstein monster, my monster, was created by El-Rufai. There are videos of El-Rufai saying that Tinubu was the best person. We have videos of the two of them dancing together, videos of him saying that some of us are irrelevant. I remember in 2022, he made a tweet about me. Of course, when I responded, he never responded again. But ultimately, it's also very important, and this is the part Nigerians should pay attention to, that these guys have no differences amongst themselves. They will resolve, it's a family affair, they will resolve this issue, but they are using all these contrived fights to distract you from real socio-political movements that can liberate the country. And those of you who used to say that, oh, Sowore, go and join ADC, I heard you are leaving ADC again, because the transfer window is open again to go to another party. We are principled people. We can't just follow you to be joining parties that have no ideology. And we feel insulted all the time when we hear from some of you carelessly referring to our years of commitment, of conviction, and of ideological clarity, and comparing it with your fair weather politicians who have no ideology, who have no conviction, who are moving from one political party to another. And the reason is exactly because they have failed so badly, they can't stay in one place. And when the consequences are here, you turn to us to come and help them. Malami sent people to me and our lawyer to come and be bailing him out of Kuje. He suddenly found out that we are the most credible people can do it. I'm sure El-Rufai must have been looking for a way now to reach out, because all this shouting about bleeding of nose is to get sympathy. I'm not saying that his nose is not bleeding, and I call on the government to stop his nose bleed. It must give him good doctors, or take him to Kaduna to go to the hospital he built to stop the bleeding. So basically what I say is that I don't want to hear from people who destroyed this country as governors, senators, House of Rep members, local government chairman, president. I don't want to hear anybody asking me to have pity for them. But our principal position that everybody must get justice cannot be circumvented even when our enemies are involved. So we do not support maltreatment of detainees. And he must be presented before a judge within the period allotted for an accused person to be brought before a judge for trial. So that's our position. And they must return his passport to him. Nobody has the right to seize his passport arbitrarily at the airport. And we made this position very clear. The position of our party, the African National Congress, and the position of our movement, the Take It Back movement, is that elections by themselves, or selections as we like to call them, cannot solve Nigeria's problem. And that is why we are very clear that only revolution can bring an end to the infractions that is called democracy in Nigeria today, or the distraction. Because these ruling parties, whomever they are, have figured out how to shortchange Nigerians during elections and after elections, before elections. On principle, as you saw, we went out to ask for transparent elections by joining those who were organizing to ask for transmission of results electronically. But in doing that, we made it clear, I made it clear, that I do not believe that transmission of electronic transmission of results by themselves will bring any credible elections. Because what we are transmitting is what has already been manipulated. And we saw that in these LCT elections, which is the first time the so-called Electoral Act of 2026 was applied. And three things happened during this election. The first was that they had already made provisions for people not to participate in the election. And then they empowered Wike to grant a public holiday that he had no right to grant. They also empowered him to block everywhere, such that soldiers were preventing people from entering and leaving Abuja. So a lot of the voters couldn't go to their polling unit. The second aspect was that people had already become demoralized by the signing of the Electoral Act itself. It was clear that these people are no longer pretending about elections, free and fair, credible elections anymore. So as a result, only 7% of registered voters in Abuja participated in this particular election. The third outstanding one was that they were bribing, not only voters, they were bribing candidates to step down, because for the first time in Nigeria, brazenly, one person belonged to two political parties. That was the minister of the FCT. He was organizing for APC and organizing for PDP and organizing for even some other parties, because I heard that he was able to get an SDP candidate to also step down for an APC candidate. So they were using money. And even with transmission of election results, we have not been able to solve that. So what you then see is that there's general disillusionment with electoral democracy. And this will help Nigerians understand our language better. That you better organize now and take your country back. Otherwise, this country is gone. Tinubu doesn't believe in free and fair elections. And the man who is the most brazen of all his ministers, the man who believes in impunity, is now front and back of elections in Nigeria. That's Wike. Anybody who thought Tinubu had problem with Wike, I was saying it last year, they do not have disagreements. Wike is the mirror image of Tinubu. I can imagine that Tinubu at this point is jealous of Wike's ability to manipulate better than he used to do. So Wike got to be his first and last son when it comes to impunity. And Tinubu is a lover of impunity. He likes it, he cherishes it, and he swims in impunity. That's why even governments that were run by military dictators are looking at Tinubu and saying, wow, we didn't even do half of this, and Nigerians chased us out of power. So I will tell you that you should listen to that favorite song by Bob Marley, which is chase those crazy bad heads, chase those crazy bad heads out of town. You better chase them out of town now before they chase you out of life.